I got some warmer weather coming in, so that should be good for the grass, and the ground is still really wet, so I can't really pull my trailer back here. I got to get a lot of these animals over to the new field. I got to get a lot of these animals over to the new field. The whole situation right now is okay. In terms of the business plan, I haven't changed any details about the business plan, right? I haven't changed any details about the business plan. The business plan that I got right now is the exact same business plan that I've had. I haven't changed one detail. It may even be like 6 months now. It may, and technically, I mean, it's even longer. And anytime that I switched up a detail, like I'm going to change up the market weight, or the commodity markets have moved in a certain way or something, I tell you, right? I will sit here and I will tell you that I changed a detail on the business plan, but the business plan is the exact same. All right, so what is the business plan right now, right? And I've already told you, I've already told you every single detail about the business plan, the business plan that I got right now, right? One of my bottlenecks right now is that I can only have a certain amount of animals in the preconditioning pen. Right, even if I felt like bringing home more animals, I'm not going to do it. Even if I have the money to do it, I'm not going to do it, because I can only hold a certain amount of animals in the preconditioning pen, and I'm going to empty out this field. I'm going to take a lot of these animals over to the new field, right? I'm going to take a lot of these animals over to the new field, and that will open up this area, and I can use this area as a large preconditioning pen. Right, but even then, I would anticipate that I could really only precondition about 14 or 15 animals a month, even then. And so the big idea right now in terms of the business plan is effectively to keep the preconditioning pens full. Right, I'm going to keep the preconditioning pens full. That's the big idea, right? And I'm effectively just as of right now, I'm already in I'm in a situation where the size of my animals is just naturally gonna grow, because there's no reason for me to sit on any more cash, right? I've been talking about this, there is no reason for me to sit on more cash. All right, I already have about 30 grand. There's no reason for me to sit on more cash. Why would I sit on more cash? It's not going to do anything, right? I talk about this all the time. The average weight of my herd is going to go up. I'm going to be able to do it very efficiently because I'm growing grass on a field that I got for a lease property. Within about 5 months, I would actually anticipate that I have doubled the size of my business. Why do I say that? All right, think about it. Why do I, and I actually talked about this, long before, I talked about this a couple of months ago, but why do I think that? Because over the next 5 months, all of these animals effectively are going to be ready for the market, right? Every single last one of these animals are going to be ready for market. And I'm actually increasing the target weight of my market for from 650 to 800, and I'm gonna do that very efficiently, right? Very simple stuff. It's not complicated. It's the same exact business plan that I've had for months. I haven't changed one detail. All right, I anticipate that all of these animals will be going to market within the next 5 months. And when I liquidate these animals, and especially if I'm taking them up to 800 pounds and I'm doing it on grass. If I'm taking these animals up to 800 pounds and I'm doing it on grass, I will make a boatload of money. All right, and I talk about this all the time. If I were to put a graph of how much money I generate and how much grass I accumulate, how much biomass of grass that I accumulate, the graphs would almost always be moving in the exact same direction. All right, if I am going to grow 6 times, if I'm going to grow 5 times more grass, then my money is going to explode vertically. All right, and what am I going to do with the money? I'm going to reinvest it into my business. The big idea is to go and buy myself my own land, right? That's what I'm working on. I'm working on doubling my business over the next 5 months and then buying more land. That's the big idea, right? That's the big idea, and that's exactly how I'm going to do it. More or less, that's the direction that I'm going. I've taken a look at it, and that's the direction that I'm going to go. All right, that's the big idea. I would anticipate that all of these animals are ready for market within the next 5 months. All right, all of them. And when these animals go to market, I will effectively make, and especially if I'm going to have these animals on grass, I will make enough money to buy more than 2 animals, and I can do that very efficiently by growing the grass. right? When I grow grass, you know, and I talk about this in terms of the cattle business, the thing about grass, you know, because like imagine that if I grew corn, if I had corn and I was growing corn, you know, I'd have to combine it, I'd have to dry it, I'd have to mix it into a feed, you know, all this machinery and, you know, and etc. It's not very good in terms of making money. It's not very good, right? You know, I always say that in terms of the cattle business, one of the things that make me one of the things that makes me a lot of money is that I don't have much machinery. I don't really have any equipment. I grow the grass and then I put the cattle on it. I supplement the grass with a little bit of feed that I buy from the feed mill. That's it. And that's one of the big reasons why I make such a boatload of money. I don't have a combine. I don't have a giant grain bin. I don't have a whatever. I don't have, you know, I don't have a giant, you know, whatever, right? You know, I don't have all of this machinery. It's just me and one tractor. You know, I got a tractor that I use and that's about it. You know, with that tractor, I plow the dirt, I move my hay bales, I do whatever it is that I need to do with that one tractor, and that's about it. That's about all of the machinery that I have. I don't have, you know, I don't have a combine and all of this, you know, hay baler and a rake and a mower, and, you know, I don't have all of this stuff. All right, and, you know, and I can do all of this with effectively one tractor. That's, you know, that makes me a lot of money. I grow the grass and I put the cattle on it, and the cattle, you know, granted that I do my part and I, you know, make sure that the grass is growing properly, and when I feed the grass to the animals, you know, the feed values of the grass are correct, and I do supplement the animals' grass with a grain, right? I don't just leave them on grass. I supplement that grass with grain, depending on the growth stage of that grass. Depending on what I anticipate the feed values are, I will change up the grain that I give the animals, right? Very simple. You know, it's, you know, that's how I do it. And I would anticipate that right now my results are actually better than anticipated. Well, not better than anticipated. Right now my results are actually better than the average. Right, my results are better than the average because I am effectively able to grow a massive quantity of grass for very cheap. The weather's very good. The weather's very good, and I'm growing a massive sum of grass for very cheap. And just to put things in perspective, this whole field, you know, I can probably feed 30, 40 cattle on this field, no problem. You know, if they're about 550 pounds on the average, I can feed about 3 or 4 animals per acre with zero issue. You can actually see the grass growing. The grass is actually about up to my ankle. You know, I walk through the grass on my way over here, and the grass is actually up to my ankle, and I can feed about 30, 40 animals on a 10.5 acre field with zero issue. Granted that I am supplementing their feed with a little bit of grain. And if I supplement their feed with a little bit of grain and I take a look at it and I'm actually making a positive return on the grain, then why wouldn't I feed the grain? Right? And I talk about this all the time. You know, if, you know, let's say that I need to feed let's say I need to feed 6 pounds of, let's say I need to feed 7 pounds of grain, right? I need to feed 7 pounds of grain to get 1 pound of gain on the animal. And that and that grain costs me whatever, 15 cents. You know, what's let's say it costs me 15 cents a pound. If it costs me 15 cents a pound and I need to feed $1 worth of that grain to put 1 pound on the animal, right? Let's say I have these animals on grass and they're eating enough grass and they're getting enough grass to put on 2 pounds a day. But if I supplement them with another 7 pounds of grain, then they will put on another pound. Right, so in this situation, if they put on another pound, if I feed them 1 pound of grain and they put on another pound of weight, on that extra pound of weight, I will make like $2, and that's a low ball. Right, the feeder cattle market right now is sitting at like $275. All right, I'm gonna, granted that I take these animals from about 200 up to about 650, 800 right now. So if I feed them 1 pound of grain, all right, let's say that they're putting on 2 pounds a day eating grass. That, they're putting on 2 pounds a day eating grass. The grass is very cheap. I'm making a lot of money. And then I take a look at the situation and I say, you know what, if I feed my animals this whatever, I take a look at my grass and I say, you know what, the feed values of the grass are kind of low. The grass is entering a early flowering stage of development. The feed values of the grass are starting to drop, and so I'm going to supplement this grass with a mixture of distiller grains and corn. Or, you know, they're on a grass, and I look at the grass and I say, well, this grass has decently good feed values. The feed values of the grass are decently good, right? I mean, they're within a reasonable range. I mean, the energy might be a little bit low, but whatever. I mean, the protein is good, and the feed values are roughly okay. You know, the grass is about up to my ankles, and I say, oh, well, this grass is probably in the middle stage of development in terms of vegetative growth. And I determined that the grass has reasonable feed values. And so I say, you know what, I'm just going to feed my animals a total mixed ration. I'm going to give them a total mixed ration as a supplement for this grass. And so I take a look at my situation and I say, well, when these animals eat this grass, they'll put on about 2 pounds a day. But when I supplement them with, let's say, 7 pounds, usually about 1% of their body weight. So if we're talking about 500-pound animals on the average, I will have to give them about 5 pounds of grain each a day. All right, so we're, you know, and I've already said this, you know, 50,000 times. You know, it's about 1% of their body weight that I will supplement their diet with in terms of grain. And let's say, you know, and I feed whatever. I feed a 75 cents worth of grain, and that 75 cents worth of grain puts an extra pound on the animal. Right, so I used 70 cents and I made $2. Then why would I not feed grain? Why would I not? Right? Why would I not? It would be unreasonable to not do it. Right? Very simple, right? I mean, you know, it's more like common sense, right? I mean, I take a look at it and I say, oh, well, if I put 70 cents into this thing, I get $2 back. Very easy, right? I mean, it's not complicated. And I've already, you know, and I talk about this all the time, but, you know, like, you know, none of this stuff is so complicated that you know, if you're born average, you can learn how to do 90% of this. All right, you know, if you're born average, which is practically everybody, including me. I was not born, you know, one of the most capable farmers known to man. I did not just appear into the world as like the most capable farmer known to man. I did not appear like this. You know, I effectively had to learn how to do this by myself. All right, you know, I did not just, you know, drop into the world and it's like, oh my God, now I'm the greatest farmer known to man. All right, I'm one of the most capable farmers known to man. I did not just appear into the earth like this. It takes a long time to do this. And if you are dead set serious about learning how to do this, 90% of the earth could do 98% of this. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. The answers have not changed I have not changed one detail. I supplement the animals with about 1% of their body weight of grain. Right, it's I supplement about 1% of the animal's body weight a day of grain when I have these animals on grass. Right, I have not changed that detail at all. I have not changed that at all. Depending on what the feed values of the grass are, I will change the grain that I supplement the animals with. As the grass enters different stages of development, the feed values of the grass will change. All of that is the exact same information that I've been giving you the same exact information for a long time. Nothing has changed. All right, you know, and even when I'm growing grass, I tell you exactly what I think about, what I know, and, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. I tell you everything that I know and what I have found to be true. All right, the grass, you know, fertilizer for grass is effectively like food for a human being. All right, and I always use money as a metric because I have always said that money, there will never be a time where it's easy to make money. Because the big idea of money is that money is a global standard. Like the dollar that I make, it is just as hard for me to make a dollar as it is for anybody else. Just as hard. It's the same exact dollar. The same exact dollar. It's not like I have access to some whatever different currency and it's easier for me to make money. It's not. Right? You know, and when you think about business is effectively a global competition for dollars. It will always be difficult. There is never going to be an easy time to make money. It's just not possible. All right, making money is difficult, and it's going to be difficult forever. All right. And so, and the thing about my situation is that, I make the same dollar that anybody else does. All right, it's the same exact dollar. And when it comes to a reality sense, I mean, it's like, it just is what I talk about money, and I'm not, I talk about money, and, I'm not looking to be like an arrogant prick about it. I'm just saying it is what it is. I do very well for myself. All right, I do very well for myself. I don't know how else to put it. All right, in terms of just a numerical fact, I mean, we're effectively talking about, and I know that this sounds horrible, but at the end of the day, it just is what it is. All right, 99.99999% of the entire country is actually closer to being homeless than to making as much money as me. Homeless, I guarantee it. All right, I did very well for myself financially. I do very well for and here's the thing. The amount of money that I am making is actually going up. And it's going up pretty drastically. All right, every single month that goes by, I make more money. All right, the thing is, and I'm not bragging about it, right? I'm just being honest about it. I'm being completely honest about it. The amount of money that I'm making is actually going up every single month. And I've even told you exactly how I'm going to do it, right? I would anticipate that all of these animals end up going to market within the next 5 months, every single last one of them. And when I liquidate these animals, the value for the animals is going to be drastically higher than the amount of money that I put into them, right? It's not some complicated thing. So if I'm running, and I've always said it's all the same thing. Money, cattle, land, it's all, granted that you have an asset that you understand, and this asset is equitable, and you have reasonably appraised this asset, it's all the same thing. Cash is not the only way to have money. Cash is the most ridiculous way to have money. All right, you really want assets, okay? You want assets. I'm not saying that you should be cash poor, right? You should have access to some cash, right? I mean, how much cash do I generate a month? Right, about 25 grand, about 25 grand. That's enough money for me to do whatever it is the heck that I want to do. Right, I'm not in a situation where I'm cash poor. All right, but I'm not in a situation where I'm just, oh my God, now I just need more cash. That's, I'm not in that, but let's just take a look at my balance sheet for what it is. How much cash do I generate? Right, I mean, how much cash do I generate? About 20 grand a month, right? I generate about 20 grand a month, right? Right, that's enough money for me to do anything that I need to do. I can grow my business, I can pay for all of my bills, I can do everything that I need to do, and I still have money left over. And I'm actually growing the equity evaluation of my herd as well. All right, that's and in all honesty, I would actually anticipate that I effectively double my numbers within the next 5 months. I double everything within the next 5 months. I'm going to double the size of my business, double the number of cattle that I have, and then after that, I'll probably even do it again, because I'll be buying my own land. I'm going to use the cash flow that I generate from this property and the lease property. I'm going to tie this property up on a line of credit, right? I'm going to leave a couple of, maybe 2 dozen cattle here, put them on a self feeder, grow the grass, and then just use the cash flow from this property to float the debt, take a line of credit against this property, against the equity on this property, and then use the money to buy myself a real big property, right? It's not complicated. I talk about this all the time, right? If you have an equitable asset, and you have an equitable asset that's not like a Pokemon card, I talk about this all the time. When you're looking for an equitable asset, you're looking for something with a massive sum of equity, a multi-hundred-billion-dollar company, a multi-trillion-dollar asset, commodities, land, Coca-Cola stock, S&P 500. You're looking for something like that. And every investment is not for everybody. I've always said this: you need to find something that you understand. All right, and if you need to find something that you understand, that is what is the most important thing. All right, if you understand your asset, don't ask anybody for an opinion. If people knew what they were doing, and I talk about this all the time. If you actually gave if you actually just walked up to somebody right now and you said, you know what, I'm going to give you a chance to make $5 million right now, everybody would take it. And the reason that they don't is because it is very difficult to make money. Very difficult. Money is a global standard. If I want to make money, it's going to be the same money as anybody else. It's going to be the exact same money. It's very difficult to make money. And I've already said this, if you've chosen to be poor, that's not good. And how do you know if someone has chosen to be poor? Go and ask them. Just go up to somebody random and imagine and just ask them, are you looking to do better for yourself financially? Are you looking to make more money? And if they say anything other than yes, then they've chosen to be poor. Money's not going to make you happier. Whatever it is that they say, if it's not anything other than yes, then they've chosen to be poor. All right, you don't want to choose to be poor. Are you looking to do better for yourself financially? The answer should be yes. All right, do I recommend you sell your soul to the devil for more money? No. All right, you probably shouldn't sell your soul to the devil for money. That's one of the things that helped me a lot. I understand that I do very well for myself financially. And the thing that, because at the end, and I say this all the time, if giving people money would legitimately save that individual, I would give away every dollar that I made. But you cannot just give people money and expect it to work. And you're going to see this all the time too. I mean, you see this everywhere. Oh my God, if we just gave the poor people money, if we just took the money away from the rich people and gave it to the poor people, then it would make the world a better place. That is communism. That is legitimately, word for word, by definition, communism. And communism does not work. All right, I don't know how else to put it. Communism does not work. All right, you legitimately just described communism word for word. And communism does not work. Money will never be easy. All right, money is effectively a global competition for dollars. It is just as hard for me to make money as it is for anybody else. Just as difficult. It's not easier for me. Nobody cares. All right, like if you're gonna, and I've always said, it's like there are many ways that, it's like, if you're poor, you're probably gonna die poor. There are a lot of ways, it's like if you've come to the realization like dang, I am poor and I should do something about it, then that's good. All right, like I don't know how else to put it. All right, and just to put things in perspective. Well, I mean, look at how I communicate, right? I mean, look at how I communicate. Am I looking to do? What do you think? Am I looking to do better for myself financially? Did I sell my soul to the devil to have money? I mean, you come up with the answer yourself, right? I legitimately show you everything. This is how I appraise my asset. These are the kind of assets that I buy. This is the kind of, when I'm buying this asset, this is how I, gain access to the capital. When I'm buying a piece of land, I take my land deal to the bank. The bank will finance the deal for me, right? When I'm looking to buy cattle, right now I'm not taking any leverage for the cattle, and I kind of feel good about not taking any leverage for the cattle. Will I take leverage for the cattle? I probably will, but it probably will not be 1-for-1. In the future, I probably will not do 1-for-1. I'll probably end up doing something like a 0.5-for-1 or something like that. Because even in this situation right now, like when you take a look at my situation, I need to sell about 2.5 animals, and I'll buy 7 animals, and the rest of these animals I can just take over to the lease property, and they'll probably go over 650, and and it'll take me at least 2 weeks, a month to precondition the 7 animals, and then it's kind of, there are a lot of moving parts, but right now the thing that I've got solved is that I want to fill up my preconditioning pens, and I'm sitting here with about, whatever, right? And I need to liquidate about 2.5 animals to fill up my preconditioning pens. I need to sell 3 animals to fill up my preconditioning pens. And if you think about that, then I'm going to be selling 3 and I'm going to be coming home with 7. right? I'm gonna be net positive for animals. So I mean, that's one thing that I got to do. The animals that are this size are effectively, about 650 right now, maybe even a little higher, maybe about, 675. And right now, in terms of the overall financial situation, I'm doing okay, right? I mean, I'm feeding about 15 buckets of grain a day. I'm feeding about 15 buckets of grain a day. I have a massive amount of grass. I actually got myself a lease property, and I'm going to be growing 5 times more grass on that lease property. I do very well for myself. I would, and when I take a look at it through a reasonable lens, through an objective lens, I generate myself about $3 to $5 million a year, and that number is actually going to go up pretty drastically. All right, I would say as of right now, and what's my cash flow? How much cash am I bringing home a month as of right this moment? About 20 grand. All right, I bring home about 20 grand, somewhere between 15 and 20 grand. But the thing is that I have a very reasonable idea for how I'm going to double the size of my business over the next 5 months, right? I have a very reasonable idea. I have animals that are already ready, they're already ready to go to market. Within the next 5 months, all of these animals are effectively going to go to market, all of them. All right, and, I bring home my animals at about 200 pounds, 250 pounds. All right, and I liquidate at about 650, 800. I would anticipate that effectively all of these animals are going to go to market within the next 5 months. I have a lease property where I'm able to grow 5 times as much grass. I'm going to precondition them here, and then I'm gonna take them over to the grass, right? Very reasonable things. It's not like I'm going to throw a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere. Oh my God, my life is going to be turned to a magical journey. I'm going on a Disneyland adventure, right? It's not like that. It's a very reasonable plan. It's a very reasonable idea, right? And, that's the direction that I'm going, right? It's not difficult, right? It's not some complicated thing. So that's effectively how I'm going to double the size of my business, right? It's not complicated. And right now, how much cash do I bring home every month? About 20 grand. Within about 5 months, that'll probably be 40 grand. By the end of the year, I'll actually probably end up making closer to $1 million a year than 20 grand or than 250. I probably will, okay? I will probably end the year making closer to $1 million a year than 250 grand. As of right this moment, how much money am I making? Somewhere between 250 and 350. All right, it just is what it is, right? Money's not an opinion. How much money do I bring home every month? About 20 grand. All right, 15, 20 grand, something like that. It's not an opinion. Add up the numbers, right? It's right there. Am I liquidating all of my animals? No, I'm not. Very simple stuff. It's not complicated, right? I mean, money is not complicated. Money's not complicated. You just take a look at it, and it is what it is. It's not an opinion. Nobody cares about an opinion. What do I think the overall the overall generation of money is in terms of, how much money do I think I generate? Reasonably, not think, how much money do I reasonably calculate that I generate? Well, I bring home about $20,000 cash every single month. I liquidate about I liquidate, whatever, right? I don't liquidate all of my animals at the same time. A lot of these animals are going to be profitable for at least 3 or 4 more months. And, right, and I started the business by myself. This business also has real estate, and I also have equipment. Right, my business is very drastically in the net positive. So when I take a look at these various factors, and I actually have a reasonable idea for making my business do better, right? That's always very important in terms of business. When you're looking at a business, if the numbers are going up, money is not difficult. If you take a look at a business and it says whatever, XYZ amount of money, and then you look, and then the next year it says 1.5 times XYZ amount of money, and then the next year it says 2.5 times XYZ amount of money, then that business will be worth more in terms of a multiple. And granted that the person who is running the business also is going to grow, also has a reasonable idea for growing the business. That business will be worth more than a business that is making an XYZ amount of money forever. if a business is making an XYZ amount of money forever, effectively has been making the XYZ amount of money for a very long time, and it looks like it's just going to continue to do that forever, then it's worth about 3 times the multiple. It's worth about 3 times the earnings. If it looks like it's going to make XYZ amount of money forever, then it's worth about 3 times the earnings. That's how you appraise the value of a business. All right, that's how everybody does it, not just me. You take a look at how much money the business makes, and then you multiply it. If you're looking at a business and it's in the revenue of the business, the earnings of the business is going up, and the guy who, or the person, not even the guy, it could be a woman, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be a lady boy, it doesn't matter. The person who's running the thing has a reasonable idea for growing the business, and the business is already growing by itself. Right? You take a look at the business, and the business is actually growing, and the business is being projected to grow more. Like, and I'll use my situation as a very realistic example, right? I have a very reasonable idea for doubling the size of my business over the next 5 months. I have a very reasonable idea for how I'm gonna do it. I'm the one who's running this thing, right? So I have a very reasonable idea for how I'm gonna do this. How am I gonna do it, right? I anticipate that all of these animals will effectively be going to market over the next 5 months. And when these animals go to market, I will effectively make enough money, and I'm gonna have them on grass. And, and I'm actually getting into the backgrounding business too, right? I'm gonna take these animals up to 800 instead of 650. And when I do that, I will actually be able to buy more than 2 animals every time I liquidate one. But that's the very reasonable stuff, right? And if all of these animals are going to market within the next 5 months, I can effectively double the size of my business by just reinvesting my earnings using 0 leverage. I'm not going to have any leverage, and I will double the size of my business over the next 5 months. And actually, let's think about this in terms of a theoretical business question. If I double the size of my business over the next, okay, so, Farmer Howard is anticipating that when he sells 31 animals, he will make enough money to buy 62. But Farmer Howard is looking at his balance sheet, and he has determined, actually, this is where I talk about I'm not a quantum computer, and this is very difficult. This is very difficult to do, because it's like, if I because would I be selling all 31 of my animals at the same time? No, I would not be selling all 31 of my animals at the same time. Because here's the thing. If I sold all 31 of my animals at the same time, and all of the animals were more or less 800 pounds, and I could buy about 70 animals, right? I could buy about 65 animals when I sold the 31. Right, that's the big idea, right? But do I sell all my animals at the same time? No. And if I was legitimately going to leverage my balance sheet 1 for 1, I would also have to appraise the animals that I still have. So it gets very complicated. This is a very realistic way to put it. Farmer Howard has 31 animals, but he has taken a look at these animals. He has brought these animals home at a average weight of about 250 pounds. Farmer Howard has brought home these animals at an average weight of 200 to 250 pounds, and he has taken care of these animals. And these animals, he has put them on, he has grown them grass, and he has put them on the right feed. He anticipates that, all of his animals are at least a body conditioning score of 5 or higher and raised to a commercial standard. When he appraises his herd, he has reasonably anticipated that his herd is worth about 55 animals worth of money. So, and also Farmer Howard is also going to be liquidating 7 animals this month. So in this situation, how many animals, if Farmer Howard was going to leverage his entire balance sheet 1 for 1, then how many animals would he have to buy tomorrow? All right, think about it like that. So if I liquidate 7 animals, and those animals, I would effectively anticipate that they're worth about 14 animals worth of equity. So if I liquidated 7 animals, I would go and buy 14. and then the rest of the 24 animals would be worth whatever, would be worth about maybe about 38 animals worth of something like that. So I would have to, how many animals would I would have to buy 27 animals tomorrow. That's how many animals I would have to buy if I was going to legitimately leverage my entire herd 1-for-1, reinvest the cash flow and leverage the herd 1-for-1. In this current situation, I have 31 animals. I would have to go and buy I would have to buy like 27 animals tomorrow just to leverage my herd 1-for-1. And that's also why I'm not leveraging my balance sheet right now. I'm not going to leverage my herd. I'm not going to do that, because if I did that, I would be sitting here with like 150 cattle, 200 cattle within the next 5 months. And that's not it. And the things are just gonna, that's not. And I already talked about this. The whole idea of leveraging 1-for-1. The big problem with leveraging 1-for-1, from what I have seen, is when something unexpected happens. I have a relatively severe outbreak of BRD, and I'm sitting there, and I've realized that maybe my balance sheet has actually dipped into the negative a couple $1,000s, and so I'm looking to fix this problem. And a very realistic way to look at this was what happened to me a couple months ago, right? It wasn't a severe outbreak of BRD, but it was a outbreak of BRD, and I had several animals die. It was like 4 or 5 animals die. I think I had 4 animals die, and then I think I had 4 or 5 animals die. I even had one big animal die. And and I was taking a look at my entire balance sheet, and I was like, I got to get this. I got to get my herd back. I got to get the equity of my herd back to 0. And so before I continue forward with anything. And so I didn't make any money for like a month and a half. That was the big problem with leveraging my whole balance sheet 1-for-1. Was that something kind of and what was it exactly horrible? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't horrible. I mean, it didn't like send me into the financial abyss. Right, it didn't put me in like bankruptcy territory, but it did put me in a situation where I effectively produced 0 cash flow for about a month and a half, so that I could get my balance sheet back up to 0. That's what actually happened, right? And that was the reality of the situation. That's what actually happened. I legitimately produced 0 cash flow for like a month and a half, 2 months, so that I could get my balance sheet back up to 0. And as of today, I haven't taken any leverage, at all. And I haven't taken any leverage at all for like a month, and I'm looking to refill my preconditioning pens. And even with 0 leverage, for me to refill my preconditioning pens, I would only have to sell 3 animals. So I could sell 3 animals and buy 7. And realistically, if I was using leverage and I leveraged that 1-for-1, I wouldn't buy 7, I would buy 11. Right? Very simple, right? If I sell 3 and I make enough money to buy 7, I have some money that I brought home last week that I just have, right? And so if I took that money and then I sold 3 animals, I effectively make enough money to buy 7 animals. And in this situation, if I was going to leverage it just 1-for-1, I would not buy 7 animals, I would buy 11. Very simple, right? It's not complicated. And I would actually leverage my cash position 1-for-1 too. Technically, I would. Well, I mean, because I'm gonna have about if I sell 3 and I buy 7, I'm gonna have about about $1,000 left over still, right? And the reason I'm gonna do that is because my preconditioning pens cannot hold more than 7 animals, right? And so I would actually technically leverage that 1,000. I would actually I wouldn't buy 7, I would buy 9, or I wouldn't buy 11. I would buy 12. I would buy 12. I wouldn't buy 11. If I sold 3, I would buy 12, and that would just keep my balance sheet at 0. Very simple, right? It wouldn't even take me negative. It would just keep me at 0, and then I can appreciate the 12 animals at the same time. Right? It's not complicated, right? I mean, I appraise the asset. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Money, land, cash, cattle, corn, it's all the same thing. Granted that you have a reasonable stocks, it's all the same thing. Granted that you have a reasonable idea for how you're going to appraise your asset, and you actually have a legitimate asset. If you have a legitimate asset and you've appraised it correctly, then it's all effectively the same thing as money, cash. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing, okay? And so, but ultimately that's what it turns into. If I sold 3, I would buy 12. If I sold 3, and I leveraged the cash position, I wouldn't buy 11, I'd buy 12. I wouldn't buy 7, I would buy 12. 14, something like that. 12 or 14, something like that. And that wouldn't even put me in the negative. That would just keep me at 0. All right, it wouldn't even take me into the negative. And so, here by about tomorrow, I'm going to be taking animals over to the new property. I reasonably anticipate that I'm going to be doubling the size of my business over the next 5 months. All right, and if there's one thing that just end the video with, but if you're in a situation where it's like, if somebody asks you, are you looking to do better for yourself, and your answer is not clearly yes, it's just not clearly yes, if that is not your answer, then that's not good, okay? If it's oh well, I'm fine just the way. Are you sure about that? Are you lying to yourself? Right? Did you give up? I mean, be honest about it. Are you looking to do better for yourself? Yes, that's always the answer. All right, that is the, you should be in a situation where you clearly state yes. Are you looking to do better for yourself? Yes. All right, do I recommend that you sell your soul to the devil, go on some magical journey? Oh my God, well, I fell out of heaven at 7. No, I don't recommend that you do that. What, how would I do it? Find an asset that you understand. And most people, if you found a way to, in terms of the average person, $2,000 a month is effectively going to move you up in the world. If you take a look at it through a broader lens, effectively 90% of people make somewhere between like 35 grand and 90 grand. If you make 35 grand, or it's like something like that, 32 grand and 90 grand, something like that. 90% of people. All right, if you're lower middle class, you make $35,000 a year. If you're upper middle class, you make $90,000 a year. If you found a way to make yourself an extra $2,000 a month, it would move you up in the world. It would legitimately move you up in the world. All right, that's what the numbers look like. And if you're looking at me and you're going, oh my God, this is a guy making millions of dollars a year, and he's suggesting that people make an extra 2,000. Here's the thing. If you legitimately think that it is unfair, like if you're legitimately such a moron that you think that this is unfair, then you go and buy yourself 250 cattle a year. You go and start yourself your own cattle business and then have fun. Let's see if you can even do 10%. If you're legitimately such an idiot that you think that this is unfair, then you go and do it. Nobody's stopping you. Go and buy yourself 120 cattle a year. Go and double the size of your business over the next 5 months. Go and buy yourself 250 cattle a year. Have fun. Let's see if you can even do 10%. I'm a first generation farmer. All right, and trust me, I'm not going to be the one who cares. All right, why would I care? I'm legitimately in a situation where I make such a drastic amount of money running cattle that it doesn't even matter. Why would I care? All right, I'm giving you my perspective because at the end of the day, God knows that I am looking to, because why not? This is a very realistic look at somebody who is doing very, very, very well for themselves financially. I do very well for myself financially, extremely well. And if you take a look at it for what it is, 99.99999% of the entire country is actually closer to being homeless than to making as much money as me. Legitimately, that's a statement of a fact, and it's going to get worse. I'm about to double this thing. All right, and I'm going to do it, and I'm in the process of doubling this thing. Over the next couple of days, I'll be taking a lot of these animals over to the new piece of land. I've already fertilized the grass. I'm going to refill my preconditioning pens. It just is what it is, okay? You don't like it, I mean, I die poor by yourself. All right, have fun with that. You're gonna die poor. You're gonna die poor. All right, have a magical journey. All right, have fun with that. All right, and me, am I, I not, like me, it's like, am I looking to do better for myself? You answer the question. Like, when you take a look at my situation, do you think I'm looking to do better for myself? Absolutely, right? I mean, it's no doubt. Right? I mean, and I would highly suggest that, because there is, and don't sell your soul to the devil, right? But, go and do better for yourself. All right, come up with something, or I'm not gonna go down with you. I'm not gonna go and be poor with you. All right, you're gonna die poor. All right, either do better for yourself or die poor. That's the situation that 90% of the entire country is in. Do better for yourself or die poor. All right, and if I was going to give a very reasonable idea for how to do that, what would it be? Right? Find an equitable asset that you understand, have a reasonable idea of why it's going to appreciate in the future, and purchase it for a reasonable appraisal value. It doesn't matter what it is. Or, if you legitimately want to run a business, then go and buy a business, multiply the amount of the money it makes, take a hard look at it, and then et cetera, right? Whatever your asset that it is that you want to buy, go and do it. You have to start purchasing assets. You have to start accumulating assets, okay? Assets are effectively going to be valuable forever. That's the whole idea of an asset, of an equitable asset. It's going to be valuable forever. The reason that it is valuable is because it is not just valuable to you and me. It is valuable to everybody. What's a very reasonable asset that falls into these categories? Land, commodities, the S&P 500, businesses that produce positive returns, right? Businesses that produce positive incomes. These are all very reasonable things. A business that makes money will always be valuable. Always. All right, the amount of value that it has is tied to the amount of money that it makes. All right, there are a lot of assets. Find something that you understand and accumulate assets. All right. Or die poor. Have fun with that. I mean, there is always, your life is not going to turn into a magical adventure because you decided to go on some mystical, magical journey. That's legitimately how it turns out. Invest your money or die poor. All right, legitimately, that it just is what it is. All right, so I mean, your life is not going to turn into a magical journey. Oh my God, maybe I don't, then die poor. All right, have fun with that. And so that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.